Today's news poll had bad news for the Albanese government, but great news for Australia because support for the voice, Labor's kind of Aboriginal-only parliament, has dropped to new lows, just 41% yes now and 48% no, with 11% of voters still unsure. Now, we'll talk later about why that might be, this huge drop. But for now, here is just one reason. It seems to me this voice campaign is already creating more division and not less. I don't see reconciliation, do you? I mean, I just see more and more demands. Now, two more sad examples of that last weekend. Now, we've already had one council in Western Australia last week. We talked to a mayor there. It was told by a local Aboriginal group it couldn't plant trees in a bit of land that had been fire burned. Now, this Greater Geraldton Council was so scared of the huge fines in West Australia's new Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Act for disturbing, Aboriginal heritage, that it halted the planting until the government said, no, that's a big misunderstanding, you go ahead. Yet now, on the weekend, just a couple of days after that case I told you about, two land care groups, also in West Australia, were also stopped from planting shrubs, these ones along the Canning River, after this man, David Collard, who identifies as Aboriginal, said they first had to pay his group $2.5 million, his Aboriginal group. Now, again, the state government later said, well, no, again, a misunderstanding. The land care volunteers, they were fine to plant their shrubs too, no need for $2.5 million. But these two groups had meanwhile been too scared to take that risk.
It's just completely unrelated, their claim for this money and the activities that we had organised for the weekend. We had to adopt the precautionary principle. It's a very sensitive issue and simply put a hold on those two activities.
Joining me is the Mayor of Canning, where a lot of these plantings were about to happen. His name, Patrick Hall. Patrick Hall, thank you so much for your time. 3 tree plantings now cancelled, the 2 on the weekend, the one before, for fear of these new cultural heritage laws. Why all this fear and confusion?
Look, hi Andrew, and thanks for inviting me onto the show. Look, here in Western Australia with the new Act has come in. Yeah, I think the implementation has been seriously lacking. There's been an awful lot of confusion here in the community. The City of Canning is one of 4 councils along the southeast corridor of Perth that has formed an alliance some years ago. And we do an awful lot of planting and a lot of land care along the Canning River, and this has just caused a real mess, and obviously that's why I'm speaking to this evening.
I'm staggered, that someone could be wanting $2.5 million from groups of volunteers to plant trees and shrubs. I mean, I thought that was a good thing to do. Do you know this David Collard and his group that said, pay us $2.5 million if you want to do this planting?
Well, just to clarify, what actually happened, David I believe he's no longer with this has all happened very suddenly, and I'm getting this secondhand. Suddenly, since this story broke, David Collard is now no longer the Chief Executive Officer of the Wadjuk Corporation, and that's a corporation that was, I understand, set up under the Act to help administer the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Act here in WA. So suddenly, he is no longer with this group. But the reality is he wasn't actually demanding the money from these environmental groups. The group of councils I'm involved in had secured $10 million in federal funding, which has not yet been paid, but it's on the way. He learnt of that, and we understand what I've been told. He made a claim for $2.5 million, and he communicated to these groups that until that claim had been settled with the federal government, till the government had actually settled that claim with him, that they should down tools essentially and not conduct any plantings there. And of course, Andrew, these are volunteering organisations. They don't have the resources to run out and talk to lawyers. And if they're told by the Chief Executive Officer of an Aboriginal corporation, they are going to do what is right and what's respectful, and I understand their position, and they will down tools, and they did. And so would we as a local government. So the fact that I think the Chief Executive Officer of an Aboriginal corporation had apparently no idea of his responsibilities under the Act, that's what we're being told by government. If that's the case, well, then there really is a misunderstanding, a miscommunication around this act, and a lot of confusion.
Well, this is the thing, Patrick Hall. The fact is, you say this corporation was entitled under this act to take action to help enforce this new Heritage Protection Act. He understood it himself to have this power. The government saying no. But it's like with the Voice, the government saying, well, it doesn't matter what's actually in the act, it's what we say. Well, is it really? All that kind of thing. It's this amping up of demands once the structure's in place. All very well now, but once it's in place, that's what worries me. When you've got this confusion already, where's it going to go after this?
Somebody said to me they wondered whether this was a glimpse into the future of Western Australia under this legislation. I don't share that view. I think that's scaremongering, but I think there is now a lot of alarm both at local government and also in the community around what this means going forward. And that uncertainty has caused division and disunity here, I believe, is certainly not helping Aboriginal people. And, I made the point today earlier on Talkback Radio that, my fear is I feel very sorry for Aboriginal people today because unfairly a spotlight's been put on them and further scrutiny over Aboriginal people that I feel wholly, generally, innocent parties here. And even David Collard himself, who I don't know, Andrew, other than I met him about 6 weeks ago over this issue. But he has been royally thrust front and centre over this matter, and some would say thrown under the bus. But I'm not certain it's entirely his fault. If he didn't understand his obligations, then perhaps there was an opportunity to sit him down and talk to him rather than move him to one side. I'm not certain. I don't know what's happened.
You're a very forgiving man,
comment
Patrick
on it,
Hall. I just don't think.
I feel sorry for David Collard tonight.
Oh, mate, but listen. I mean, it's asking $2.5 million because volunteers want to plant plants must strike anyone as a very, very cheeky ask. Seriously. I don't know what he thought.
It's opportunity, isn't it? Do you know what? That's people, but isn't it?
Patrick, I get it. But this is the whole point. Patrick Hall, I really appreciate your time and thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. But honestly, the good thing about the West Australian Act is that the politicians, because it's not in the Constitution, they can change it when it doesn't work, like it clearly isn't.